this is the last lecture in the series. I also promised to give you guys an assignment. The payback is now. I'm not sure how that works. I'm still new here in these kinds of things. But anyway, what we thought of was something that I think you are all familiar with. Well, anybody who wants to get points for this series, for them this is relevant. You are all probably familiar with the phenomenon of the poster presentation, which is a kind of combination between image and text in such a way that it doesn't force you to write an entire essay. It doesn't force us to read more than 100 entire essays. But most importantly, it forces you and us to more, in a way, writing an essay about something is extremely easy, because it allows you to go into a certain kind of language, scientific language or critical language, and then just follow that one line and follow your own thoughts and write it down. But in a way, because the material that we have been talking about here is so hybrid and so different and so, how do you say, so conflicting sometimes, for us it is very important that we try to understand these riots and this urbanism, not just in a journalistic or in a critical or in a sociological way, but exactly in the way that these things, the architecture and, for example, the media, the urban planning and, for example, the pop culture, how these things interact, and also that you get a sense of the event of urban planning and the event of urban violence, which is why we thought it is much better and much more challenging also to try and work with images, to create complex or very narrative or exciting or even propaganda-like images, combined with text, diagrams, whatever you have, whatever tools are at your disposal, and not just to report on the lectures, because I mean that would be maybe it would be educational, but it would be in my view would also risk being a complete waste of time. But to use the lectures as a kind of inspiration or as a kind of springboard, as a kind of a parallel for you to imagine. I think the most important message to bring across, or one of the most important, is that you are able to imagine that this could happen near you. So the idea is that that you imagine how you create scenarios for how an urban riot could develop and could happen in an area that you know. And of course, not just as a kind of ridiculous science fiction, but to actually look at what you know about this area. It could be your hometown, it could be Delft, it could be the town that you lived in for a while, it could just be a town that you know very well or that you are very interested in, and just to look at this town through the lens of what we have offered you during this lecture series. For example, to look at is there a history of urban violence here? Are there certain groups that that all live together in one area and that feel kind of apart from the rest? Are there certain large-scale urban renewal or urban planning projects that generate a kind of frustration or that generate a kind of alienation or anger, even aggression? So it's not a matter of being completely unrealistic, completely science fiction, but it's also not a matter of being completely realistic either. It's a way of looking at an area and trying to find those elements that, if heated up a little, or if they would be a little bit bigger, or with a certain kind of political change that you could imagine, either here in the Netherlands or somewhere else, then that could all combine and form the same kind of structure as we have seen in the past 4 lectures. So, which is why I created a kind of a roadmap. Well, first, of course, there's a kind of ideas that the lecture could, or the poster would, to inspire you to make this poster. Well, of course, first the theme is describe an urban riot that could happen in a place you know. The second is the format. Well, now it says 60 centimeters, but I don't really care. The idea is that it should be long, because I want you to think in terms not just of one statement poster standing, but I want you to think in terms of a long thing, so that you first create a kind of panoramic idea of it, and that you create a kind of chronology, a kind of story that would happen from left to right. The third is just, well, use whatever you want to use. That's the whole point. I don't want you to write an essay or to draw a plan. I want you to be completely opportunistic in using the methods and the tools that you have. Images, text, maps, diagrams, numbers, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, you make a hip-hop record about it. That would also be fine. I mean, the Dutch hip-hop right now is one of the best in the world, so it's a shame that only people in the Netherlands know it because of the language. But the idea is a poster presentation meets a movie poster, meets an allegory, you know, like these kind of medieval allegories. And then the roadmap is first select a city or a place or a neighborhood, a Tandhof, I don't know. Describe the urban and social history of that place, but in the sense of something being a kind of prelude to urban violence. So that means, of course, be very selective, even exaggerate some things. It's about telling a story, this whole thing. The third is describe the social structure of the place that you, or the social economic structure of the place that you are talking about, in the sense of something that has the ingredients for the tension and the possible frustration and aggression that is needed to create this. The fourth is, of course, that's a very important one, the triggering event. As we have all seen the last couple of months, it all happens with a trigger. Sometimes it can be something relatively small, and something that in 1,000 other contexts would have triggered absolutely nothing. But in this specific context, this specific incident of, for example, a confrontation with the police in a specific time, specific place, is enough to spark and set the whole thing on fire. And of course, the fact that just this one trigger is needed to set a whole place on fire means that the whole place was nearly on fire anyway. Of course, describe and visualize the riots. You could do that by, I don't know, by photoshopping a fake news report screenshots. Or you could make a newspaper, you could change an existing newspaper headline. Describe, of course, the physical and social effects on the city. So what does it mean that the entire center of Delft is burned down and is one big ruin? Kind of somehow kind of attractive fantasy. Not for me, of course. Imagine and visualize the role of popular culture. So it could not. This could not. This could also be just use existing. I don't know. Well, movies or existing video clips, whatever, artworks that somehow could be read as being prophetic of your riot. But it could also be just creating them, just faking them. A kind of, you know, I don't know, a kind of a Belgian version of niggers with an attitude. Imagine, and this is very important, the possible role of architects before and after the riot. Of course, this is extremely central because that's the whole point of this lecture series. So you could kind of, in your analysis, but also in your story, you should think about which role has architecture played, not just in the cause of the riots, but also, and this also happens a lot, in how in the reaction to the riots. Are the architects then, of course that wasn't a riot, but for example when this fireworks depot blew up in Enschede in the Netherlands more than 10 years ago, it meant that this whole area was reconstructed with an architectural ambition that without this, this catastrophe would never have happened in this place. So sometimes there are scenarios where architecture profits greatly from a catastrophe, because architecture is then brought in as a new sign of hope and reconstruction. But on the other hand, architecture can also be the trigger, can also be a kind of cause for urban frustration and the ensuing violence. So you should think about that. This brings me to the last and most important point. Is the reason to do this is not just that you use all the tools that you have to kind of understand how these things happen and to be able to recreate it as a scenario using everything you have, but also to make very clear your own, or as clear as possible, or to create or to force yourself to clarify your position on this big question. What is the relationship between architecture, urban planning, and urban violence, urban poverty, alienation, etc. I mean, I know that in this room there are many, many very different attitudes about this question. Some people are very outspoken on them, others are still trying to formulate this in their mind, but I would like to know much more, because I've been kind of giving my own ideas on it. But I mean, this is of course a kind of way to understand your thinking and your ideas about this. So use this as a way to either make explicit or to construct your own opinion and your own position on this issue. This is not an assignment that I want you to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on. It is not about deep research or about detailed presentation. This is about using what you know already. Of course, it's up to you how long you would work on it, but I would say do not spend more than 1 or 2 days on it, or nights. How this actually happens, I don't really know. I propose to, because of course this whole lecture series falls within a certain other chair's teaching plan, the practice of urbanism thing. So we will both publish the assignment on Blackboard, and then you just go to the code of this thing. And we will also publish it on our own website, the website of Design as Politics. And we will do that today. That's it. That's your